Being good, being bad. Being good, being bad. When it comes to weight loss, it often seems like there are only two modes of behavior, being good or being bad. In today's podcast, we explore how we communicate with ourselves in this good-bad way can keep us from the long-term success we want, and look for some thin-thinking ways to turn it all around. Did you know that our struggle with weight doesn't start with the food on your plate or get fixed in the gym? 80% of our weight struggle is mental. That's right. The key to unlocking long-term weight release and management begins in your mind. Hi there, I'm Rita Black. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, weight loss expert, best-selling author, and the creator of the Shift Weight Mastery process. And not only have I helped thousands of people over the past 20 years achieve long-term weight mastery, I am also a former weight struggler, carb addict, and binge eater. And after 2 decades of failed diets and fad weight loss programs, I lost 40 pounds with the help of hypnosis. Not only did I release all that weight, I have kept it off for 25 years. Enter the Thin Thinking podcast, where you too will learn how to remove the mental roadblocks that keep you struggling. I'll give you the thin thinking tools, skills, and insights to help you develop the mindset you need, not only to achieve your ideal weight, but to stay there long term and live your best life. Hello, and come on in. Welcome. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. It's been quite a week for me, busy, and planting tomatoes all on top of it, because early April is the planting tomato time in Southern California for people who want to have an early tomato harvest. And my husband has been planting tomatoes for years, and I come out and help him. We planted a lot of tomatoes, so we're super excited. And by the middle of the summer, we are so sick of tomatoes. We've made gazpacho, we've made homemade marinara, we've done everything. But right now, we are super excited about the crop. And before I dive into our episode today, which I'm super excited about being good and being bad, before we dive in, I am inviting you to stay tuned to the end of today's podcast, where I will be announcing a free new masterclass that I'm hosting called How to Break Through to Consistent Long-Term Weight Release, as well as a reminder that it's the last few days to enter a post of a review of our podcast and to be entered into the drawing for a free seat in the upcoming spring 2021 Shift Weight Mastery process that begins at the beginning of May. So stay tuned or check the show notes for both of these things. Okay, so let's dive right in to why being good is bad, shall we? So one of the things that comes across my path all the time as somebody who works with people on their weight mastery journeys over and over, year after year, one of the hardest things to break people out of is the idea of being good and being bad when it comes to weight release. But in order to really get into that thin thinking for long-term weight release success, we absolutely need to break out of this habit because it's bad and that's not good. So there seems to be, from my perspective, 2 gears of weight loss when we are stuck in fat thinking. One gear is what I call the being good gear, right? And I have a nickname for this gear called chicken and broccoli, because it's literally, we are really focused on being perfect to the T on any of the weight loss regimes that we may be on. You know, if we veer off just one iota, I have people who get just so persnickety about even a brand name, if they can't get the right brand name that, for this special weight loss formula, that it's not going to work. So I call this the chicken and broccoli. Chicken and broccoli, we are being good, really adhering to the plan, whatever our plan is, exercising, and to ourselves, we are perfect, we are angelic, we are being good, and it all is good. Good, good, good. Chicken and broccoli, chicken and broccoli. Okay? And then now let's talk about the other mode, the second gear, called pizza and ice cream gear. Oh yes, And that is what we are in. The bad gear. We are in bad mode. We are no longer being good. So anything that looks like anything good, oh, we are so not interested in that. No, 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 no. It's pizza and ice cream, pizza and ice cream. Oh, let me have a double order of those fries and whatever passes my path because I am simply not interested in anything healthy because I am in the bad gear and that is not of any interest to me. And exercise, maybe not so much either, right? So when we struggle, it seems like we just go between these two gears. I hear this from clients all the time when they come to me, especially for their intake session or when students come into the course and we do our first kickoff. We talk about the way that we've been eating, and often it is I've either been very good or I go off the rails. And it's kind of like I have a mountain bike, right? And I bought it used. I just started mountain biking during the pandemic because my gym closed. And I love mountain biking. I'm so glad it's been one of the blessings of the pandemic for me because biking out in nature, wow, is so fantastic. Although I bit the dust last weekend and I think I have a bruised rib. But anyway, aside from that, my bike that I bought used, one of the gears is broken on the left-hand side for those of you who bike. You usually have like 3 gears on the left that are the bigger, larger gears, and then you have the ones on the right. And my second gear isn't very good, and I can really only use the first or the third gear. And it really, when we struggle, it is really like that. We have that one extreme or we have that other extreme gear, but there doesn't seem to be this middle ground, this integrated way of eating that we can be healthy, but also enjoy, have a realistic for your life way of eating that is inclusive of the treats that you love, but allows you to live at your ideal weight. And ultimately, for long-term weight mastery, this way of eating is the way of eating we want to get to, a way of eating that we love that allows us to live at our ideal weight. And it isn't those things outside of us being good or being bad. It is a way of eating that we've owned, that we've created, and it is a creation journey, not a being good or being bad journey. You get it? I think you do. But it's really understandable that we've gotten into this good or bad, on or off, all or nothing way of thinking, because our diet culture sets us up to think that the answer is outside of us. Find the right diet or the right plan or the perfect regime, be good on it till you lose all your weight, then ride off into the sunset, slim and happy. But think about it. Are we really going to wake up one morning and magically be able to be good for the rest of our life on one diet? No. But that is what has gotten wired in our subconscious as the status quo. The reality is, in order to really have a breakthrough and find long-term success, we need to go about this with a different mindset. We gain weight with the same food, at the same times, and the same thinking patterns, what I call struggle points. Think about it. For a lot of us, we have vulnerable points at the weekend, when we go out with friends, or when we're social, or when we're stressed, or when we feel emotional, or maybe around our ladies' time, right? We come up against them no matter what diet we are on, because diets are external structures, and they don't address the deeper subconscious beliefs, identity, and habits that create our struggle. When we are being good, we can be good for a certain amount of time, but then we hit that struggle point. And then, because we struggle, we label that behavior as bad. And then immediately, or maybe eventually, we just give up and we eat pizza and ice cream, pizza and ice cream, pizza and ice cream. So we can't keep going on in this good or bad modality. We have to break through. Now, there are 3 reasons we want to break out of the good and bad label. First of all, labeling your behaviors as good or bad, those are super general terms, and they don't help you learn what is working and what isn't working with your weight journey. And that's ultimately your key to success. I ate what was on my diet. I was good. I didn't eat what was on my diet. I am bad. I've been good this week with exercise. I blew it and I didn't get to the gym once. I was good. I didn't eat the dessert. I ate the dessert. I was so bad. Labeling yourself and your behaviors of weight loss as good or bad does nothing for your brain when it's trying to work for you to help you with your weight. You see, your mind is a computer and it needs to be wired with the right coding. It needs more specific instructions. Good and bad means nothing to your subconscious mind. So it just keeps giving us the same patterns because the code we are using to rewire good and bad is completely ineffective and reinforces the struggle. Long-term success is about creating a communication system with ourselves that lets us improve things as we go along, tweaking, making adjustments to our behaviors and our habits a little bit at a time. Number 2, the states of being good and bad usually lead to overeating at some point, and the research backs it up. Being good actually gives yourself permission to be bad. How? Many research studies, including the one at the University of Chicago School of Business, shows that feeling good about something we did motivates people to indulge in self-sabotaging behavior. Think of the times when your scale was down and that was a license to eat. And promising to be good tomorrow? Research shows that to the degree that we promise to be good tomorrow, it gives us permission to be bad today. And I think about all those weekends I spent stuffing myself silly while reading the diet book that I was going to begin on Monday and be perfect on. Feeling bad leads to more eating too. Stress in the brain. Neuroscientists have shown that anger, sadness, and anxiety leads to a reward-seeking state. We need to learn how to refocus the brain and understand that ultimately the labels of good and bad in weight management are cues for the brain to take us off track in some way. And lastly, we literally get addicted to being good and then falling off and being bad. Why? Because it gives us a little bit of a high. It gives us a release. And the dopamine center in our brain goes, aha, this is good. Let's do it again. So you'll find that when you're being good, there's that part of your mind that now expects that being bad is going to happen, and the dopamine center in the brain will start to bug you for it. Maybe if you typically let loose on Friday night, somewhere around Thursday or Friday, you're going to feel that agitation of wanting to let loose, of wanting to let go, or going to the party, or going out, or feeling stressed and feeling that tension mounting. That's the dopamine center saying you should go for it. Let's do it. Let's let loose. And when you finally do go for it and eat the whatever, the pizza, the ice cream, you're letting loose of that rigid control, and it's a release. And it creates a feel-good feeling. Now, obviously, after that initial release, and we typically will then eat a lot of pizza or a lot of ice cream, then those bad feelings begin to set in. The feelings of remorse, the feelings of guilt, and the feelings of pain, or feeling stuffed, or wishing that we hadn't eaten that. But the dopamine center in the brain, it doesn't remember that. It just wants what it wants. It wants that release and that high that it gets from letting go. Does that make sense? So in essence, what's happening is we're restricting and then letting go, and restricting and letting go. And the brain has gotten into the habit of doing that. And we've got to break ourselves out of that. So how do we break out of these 2 gears of being good or being bad? Well, the first step is to be a learner and to see yourself as a learner and not as a dieter or somebody struggling with your weight. Long-term weight release is not about being good. but it is about creating a way of living that allows you to live your life at your ideal weight. That is a learning journey and a self-loving journey, and not a journey of being perfect or beating yourself up and shaming yourself for being a failure. Let's be clear from the start. When it comes to weight mastery, you are not good and you are not bad. This isn't about your worth, and yet that is often what we make it about with the labels. Labeling ourselves as good makes us feel nervous. When we are good on our diet, we get nervous because guess what? Our inner critic will probably remind us that even though we're being good now, that's just luck. Our inner critic will remind us that the shoe is definitely going to drop and we will for sure be bad later. Being good in and of itself means that ultimately, to the weight-struggling subconscious mind, that being bad is probably just somewhere right around the corner. Even when people are near or hit their ideal weight, it's often hard for them to really believe that they are going to be able to stay there. I worked with a child therapist once who agreed that this labeling, that being good, is bad. She said for children, it's the same, that it makes children nervous when parents give them praise like, "Oh, you were so good. You cleaned your room." Or, "You did so good on that test. Look at that painting. You are such a good painter." Because deep down, the child will worry about living up to this good label. And the parent might withhold their love if they don't perform well in the future. Think about for yourself when somebody gives you a compliment. "Oh, you look nice today." What do you usually say to yourself internally? "No, I don't." So what the therapist said to do instead was to reinforce with the child specific things about what they did that worked. "Oh, look, you painted within the lines and you chose very interesting colors." Or, "You really made an effort to make your room tidy and it paid off. Look how much easier it is for you to get around and see everything you need." I know it was like this for me when I was struggling with my weight and I was a diet and being good. Consciously, it was like I was walking on the clouds. I mean, when I was being good, my doo-doo didn't smell and I was a frickin' rock star. But subconsciously, I was a nervous wreck. Lurking behind the glitter of being a dieting goddess was impending doom, a feeling that I was going to suck and be bad because I knew it was coming. My inner critic loved to remind me and would never let me fully bask in my dieting glory. And sure enough, the day always came when I blew it. And those clouds of dieting glory that I was walking on became storm clouds that I came crashing down out of. And my inner critic gave me a good lashing while I was in the mud. "You are just bad, bad, bad. How dare you think you could be good because you are just bad. How did you ever think you were going to get away with being good forever?" And so I would just wait for the storm clouds to pass and start working on being good again, hoping this time it would last. Enough of the insanity, right? You are not good and you are not bad when it comes to managing your weight. There are behaviors and habits that work for you or don't work for you. And the sooner you start tuning in and getting curious and focusing on shifting those things, instead of labeling everything as good or bad, the sooner you will start to get to lasting results. So what do we need to do? We need to begin to code our mind with specifics rather than generalizing. And we need to turn that inner critic into our inner coach. You probably have been told that your brain is like a computer, especially your subconscious mind. It needs specific input. So, what happens internally when we say to ourselves, I have been being good with my food, or I have been being bad with my food? Your subconscious mind hears that like the Charlie Brown teacher. Do you remember the Charlie Brown teacher in the Peanuts cartoons? The teacher would be off screen and Charlie Brown would ask a question, and all Charlie Brown would hear back from the teacher was wah, wah, wah. You never heard the teacher actually say words or speak. And that's kind of what the subconscious hears when it hears good or bad. It hears wah, wah, wah. And it doesn't learn any from your communication with yourself in this way. It's often what I hear from clients or students in my courses. I'll check in and I'll say, how have things been going? And sure enough, people will say, it's been going good or it's been going bad. And especially in the beginning when I'm working with people, as they begin to cotton on and inner coach themselves and get more specific, this obviously changes. But in the beginning, I do a lot of intercepting and saying, okay, what was good and what behaviors worked for you? What foods were you eating that worked for you? What foods were you eating that didn't work for you? What exercise? How did you set yourself up for exercise? How did you set your environment up for success? Did that work for you? Did that work against you? You want to be conscious of the specifics. How did you adjust your thinking so that you created that positive outcome? Thoughts create actions, so we need to look deeper and look at the wiring and thought processes that are either creating the actions that work for us or the actions that don't, so that we can begin to change them. If you haven't been getting the results from your brain that you would like, you are being too general. You're not being bad. You're just not being specific. You need to give your brain specifics to work with. When things are going well, great. Program that into your brain, the specific behaviors that are working for you, and coach yourself about the behaviors instead of criticizing yourself over them. For instance, I am being good with exercise, again, is wah, wah, wah to your brain. Instead, the thin thinking would be to get specific about the behavior. I have been waking up at 7 and walking for 30 minutes each day. That is working for me. I am feeling energized and getting toned. When I wake up, I don't really want to get up, but I say, think about how you're going to feel 15 minutes into your walk. You're going to feel great, and that gets me out of bed. I want to keep getting up and doing this. I want to keep speaking to myself, so I will get up in the morning in this way. Now that is something you can work with. Now, you can even ask your brain a question like, how do we make this consistent? Is there anything else we can do? Now, your unconscious mind loves questions and will go to work for you to answer them, but maybe not in the moment. But ask and you shall receive. The answer is in your brain, and your brain will go to work for you, and it will come to you like an epiphany. Often I'll say to myself, okay, I want the answer to this question, and then I'll go for a walk, and somewhere during the walk, the answer will come to me because my brain, my subconscious mind has gone to work for me. So even though I'm consciously doing something else, that answer will eventually come, but we have to start asking those questions. Maybe it will come to you while you're driving. I live in Hollywood, and we know people who are screenwriters, and often screenwriters work in this way. They get to the end of a scene and they don't know the answer to the end of the scene, or the character that they're working on isn't exactly right. And they'll say to their brain, I need to solve this scene, or I need to figure out this character quirk. And then they will get up from their desk and they'll go and buy groceries, or they'll just do some other sort of task. They'll go exercise. And sure enough, the answer always comes to them. So think like a screenwriter. Think about those challenges that you are having, because when you get specific about them and when you ask your brain, like, this is something I need to solve, let's start to figure that out, your brain will start working for you on a deeper, more subconscious level. But you have got to ask the questions. That's why I love the idea of an inner coach. Coaches ask questions. Coaches are curious. Coaches use specifics. That's how they get to your excellence, is by digging deeper and by asking questions and by using your mind and your abilities more effectively, not working against you, but working for you. Does that make sense? I hope it does. When things are not going well, the same applies exactly. I am being bad and I'm eating too much dinner. What does our brain hear? Wah, 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 wah. Now, this can be shifted into, my goal is to eat smaller portions at dinner. I am still eating way too much at dinner and feeling too full. Next time, what can I do? Maybe I can try having my dinner on a smaller plate. Maybe I can eat more slowly and tune in every couple of minutes to how full I am. So when you ask those questions, you start to get more specific. It isn't about your being bad or a negative person or this person who's a super overeater. It's a problem to be solved. You are not the problem. The challenge is something that you are going to come to a solution with. So you are actually the solution, not the problem. And this is the way, my friend, that you start moving the needle in the right direction. Now, the last thing we want to do is we want to start breaking the habit of starting over tomorrow. How do we start? By getting conscious of when you feel the urge to start over tomorrow. And instead, try another communication, which is, I am not bad and I don't need to start over. I choose to learn the lesson instead. So start to observe what I would call your struggle points, these more vulnerable points in your life where you usually get thrown off track for one reason or another. Don't make yourself bad or wrong about them, but really have some self-empathy and look and see, like, this is a vulnerable time for me. This is a place where I struggle. I'm not a bad person because of this, but this is definitely something I want to tune into and start to problem solve. I go out on Friday night and I eat too much. I'm not a fat pig. I don't need to start over. I need to get curious. I wonder why I overeat on Friday night. Do I allow myself to get too hungry? Do I get to the end of the week and I've overworked myself so much that I just need a reward and my mind tells me the reward can only be fattening foods? Could it be that I go into social situations and I don't think it through ahead of time, so I'm just automatically going along with the crowd, doing whatever they're doing without really honoring myself and my true needs? So what you can do is next Friday, you can work on it. And over time, you can start figuring out your Friday nights and own them rather than them owning you. And also with regards to food in general, instead of labeling food as good or bad, you want to start to see the foods that really nourish and stabilize your body as not as good, but just as powerful for your body. And start to look at the other foods, the more what you would call reward foods, the less nutritious foods, but maybe the foods that we impulsively reach for when we think we're being bad, as something that you can integrate into your life in a small way, but not definitely going off the tracks all the way. See, because the more you feel like you're integrating your life with healthy, nourishing foods, and that's primarily the big part of your diet, and then integrating the foods that work for you, those reward foods, in a small way, then you begin to develop a way of eating that you love. There is a cognitive behavioral study that shows that when people allow themselves a reward or a treat, of obviously not a triggering one, at the end of the day, either after dinner or a little ways after dinner, and they really just have that treat, they find that their behavior is far more consistent during the day. So they're able to say no to the bagels at the office and to the afternoon snacking because they know they're going to get that reward at the end of the day. And this has been shown to be just a really wonderful way to integrate reward, something that's you feel it might be your treat food into your way of eating without feeling that you're depriving yourself, but not going overboard and going off track. Does that make sense? So here is our thin thinking coaching for the week. Get conscious to when you are using good and bad with regards to yourself and your weight behavior. Get underneath the words and get specific about the thinking and behaviors that are working and not working for you. And start reinforcing what is working and start solving what isn't. Get curious and leave the critic in the back and leave that inner critic back in weight struggle land. The more you do this, the more you will be recoding your brain for health, confidence, and long-term success. Believe in yourself. You can do this. You can figure this out. Everything is figure-outable. To quote thought leader Marie Forleo, everything is figure-outable. And every one of your struggle points and vulnerable times, you can figure out and you can own it and have that weight mastery. Now, if you want to dig deeper with this and experience some hypnosis for weight release, I am super excited to announce that I am going to be doing a free new masterclass coming up on April 21st, 2021, called How to Break Through to Consistent Long-Term Weight Release. In this 75-minute masterclass, I will guide you through a powerful process, including a light hypnosis session where you will learn 1, the 3 most common weight loss mistakes that keep you stuck and struggling. These are the foundational ones, the ones that really trip us up. 2, 3 doable mental shifts that you can make to remove the subconscious resistance and roadblocks and start losing weight for good. 3, my 4-part shift process that has helped thousands of people release weight long-term by using mind power over willpower. You will finish the masterclass feeling clear on what you need to do to release weight permanently, motivated because you have a roadmap that breaks you out of the frustrating on again, off again cycle and into the ability to be consistent, and excited because you know you can be successful. And one more thing, we are going to start on time, so make sure to be early if you sign up and come. And this masterclass has limited seating, and I'm being honest about that. We're only allowing a certain amount of people in each class. So the links are in the show notes, so go check it out and sign up. I'd love to have you in class. And just a reminder, you can earn a free ticket to our upcoming live Spring 2021 30-day Shift Weight Mastery process guided by me. All you need to do to be in the running is to write a review of our podcast, take a screenshot of it, and send it to Rita at shiftweightmastery.com. That's Rita at shiftweightmastery.com by April 12th, 2021. And you will be in the running for a drawing on April 13th, where I will give the 3 winners a free ticket, free enrollment into the Spring 2021 online Shift Weight Mastery process. So take a few minutes of your time and get the chance to save hundreds of dollars when you win. And I hope you have an amazing week. And remember that the key, and probably the only key to unlocking the door of the weight struggle, is inside you. So keep listening and find it. Have an awesome week, you guys. Do you want to dive deeper into the mindset of long-term weight release? Head on over to www.shiftweightmastery.com. That's www.shiftweightmastery.com, where you'll find numerous tools and resources to help you unlock your mind for permanent weight release, tips, strategies, and more. And be sure to check the show notes to learn more about my book, From Fat to Thin Thinking: Unlock Your Mind for Permanent Weight Loss.